And we're back. These have been drying overnight, and I kept them clamped up with some straight edges just to make sure they stay nice and straight. You got to be careful. MDF, even though it's stable, will still it will still warp on you. So let's see what we got here. You can see, remember I told you, so this is what the edge looks like, and I told you not to worry too much about this, because we're going to come along here, in fact on all the sides, with our lovely track saw, and we're going to clean all that up, and then I'll show you afterwards how we're going to fill the grain and hide these joint lines. If we had enough glue in there to start with, then the joint lines will almost disappear because they're just filled with a really hard glue, but there might still be spots where it's not, and so we have a trick for that. Okay, let's move on. Right, the goal here is to take off as little as possible. So you really want to remove just the smallest amount, a 32nd, a 16th, something like that, just to clean up the edge. And then once that's nice and clean, we will measure off of that edge to the other side, make some marks so we can line that side up parallel to this side, and we'll do the same thing with the ends. Shout out to PowerTech. You see this long track here? This is like over 8-foot track. It's closer to 9 foot, I think. This thing's awesome. If you were to buy the Festool one, you'd have to remortgage your house. But PowerTech, this is under 150 bucks on Amazon. Super accurate, fits the Festool track saw really well. I'm all for cheap tools when they are warranted, and this is one of them. Right, so let's get going. Safety on. Right, well, I made that pass, and over here it's nice and flush, but I get to areas in the middle where I still have some overlap. So unfortunately, I have to move the track over a bit, and I'll be removing closer to, looks like a 16th or an 8th. But here we go. Best to just do little passes at a time so that you don't take too much off. Now then, take a look at that, before and after. Will that focus? Just try and focus that guy in there. Look at that, beautifully smooth. And there are some little voids, so we are gonna have to use the little filler trick, but that's awesome. We are looking good. Okay, both panels, all sides are cut flush and square. Ended up taking off about close to, I would say, 3/16 on one of the sides, but you can't really tell. I mean, it still looks like the both styles there are the same width. So now, while I got this panel here, I'm just going to go over it with the router, put that same chamfered edge on. It's kind of too heavy, these doors, to carry on your own, so I'll have to wait for some help to take one of them off of here. I also have to, if you bear with me, let's use this bottom one as an example. The bottom rail here, cross section, down the middle of this, I need to router a 1/4 inch groove. That is in case I use the floor guides that kind of ride inside the door. I want to have that option, so we'll see on site what I actually use, but I have to router that into there as well, so we might do that right now. We are all done with the cutting and the routering. So we're going to move on now to treating the edges. Now I promised you a little trick, and the little trick, my friends, to hide these lines and fill the voids in these glue ups is Easy Sand 5. Now I know what you're wondering. You're wondering, what the hell am I doing with drywall stuff? Well, there's various things you could use. You could use a wood putty. So as you see, I got the lines. This is an edge that I've just coated, and that will get sanded down, and I'll show you later what it looks like when it's finished. But let's talk about the alternatives. You could use a wood putty. They tend to be quite hard. The soft ones come in small pots, gets quite kind of expensive. You could use Bondo, car Bondo, the stuff that you fill car panels with. Now the problem with Bondo, yes, it's very hard. So if you're having an edge that's going to get a lot of abuse, that's probably the way to go. But the problem is, I have created, let me see if this will focus, these little chamfers on the edge you see here. Bondo is not the easiest thing to sand. It's quite a hard material. So when you end up sanding it, you end up sometimes disturbing these nice edges that you've created. So my advice is, you'll see the finished product once this is dry and I've sanded it back and it's painted. It hides everything perfectly. And if it's not an edge that's going to get a lot of abuse, then it is perfectly hard enough. As it is, MDF is quite tough on the surface, but can be quite prone to dinging or marks on the corners. Hopefully a good paint will help that. But anyway, that's just that. So we will show you the result of the edges after we're done. That's it. I use this stuff, Easy Sand 5. It's quite a hard compound. Don't get the topping stuff. The topping mud is really lightweight. Just get the stuff that you can do repairs and all that with. It dries pretty quickly. The other benefit is it fills all the pores, especially the end grain of MDF. When you wet it, i.e. paint it first time, it will raise the grain and you have to sand back that first coat. I know this is a man-made material, but it still has wood fibers in it, so they tend to spike up and you have to knock them back for a nice tight finish. So this has the added benefit because it's got a bit of moisture in it. This Easy Sand 5 will cover the edges, fill any voids, also slightly raise that grain, so when you sand it, it's ready for paint. Awesome! Okay, let's have ourselves a little progress report. Today I've been working on the holes for the hardware. This is some beautiful hardware off of Amazon, link in the description. But it calls for a 13/16 inch holes. Now I don't know if you've ever tried to find a 13/16 inch drill bit, but basically the big box stores don't carry them. You're kind of trawling through on the internet to find one. But into MDF, what I found is you drill a 3/4 inch hole and you can pretty much force that thing through. Just a little bit of in and out with the 3/4 inch bit and you're good to go. So it's kind of critical that these holes are drilled pretty straight. That's why I use one of these. These drill blocks are pretty cheap. Go all the way from like 1/8 up to a 1/2 inch. So what I do is I start with 1/8 inch. Exactly where I want to drill. They have marks on the side here to line up square. And that's what I do. I start with 1/8 inch pilot hole, and then from 1/8 inch I work my way up here to 3/8, and I drill that. And once the hole exists at 3/8 of an inch, you can, wait for it, bambuka. You can stick this big guy through there, because since the hole's already drilled, it will act as a pilot hole for this guy, and this guy will just go straight through there. Make sure you put something on the back side, clamped on the back side here so you don't get tear out on the back side. All right, that's it. All right, a cheeky little update for you. So doors are built, and the master plan is to actually paint them in situ because I want to fit them first. I want to fit them, make sure everything is pucker before I go to the trouble. And there's 1, 2, those are the double ones, that's the smaller one. Before I go to the trouble of painting them, in case I have to modify them slightly, shave down a side or something, best to dry fit them first. So this will be the end of this video, and the next one will be installing the doors. Or probably actually I'll make 2 more videos. I think I will make a video about installing the hardware, and then we will do a final video about actually hanging the doors and putting the hardware on the doors, etc. All right, thanks for watching.